Bharata and his party took a dip into the Triveni, the confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati. The chief of the sacred cities, and bowed their head to the sage Bharadwaja. Bharadwaja reverently received his orders and blessings, and protesting himself made much supplications. Accompanied by the expert guides and taking the whole host along with him, he proceeded on his journey with his thought directed. Bharata and his party. The chief of the sacred bowed his head to the Sikh Bharadwaja. Bharata reverently received his order and blessings, and protesting himself, made much supplications. Accompanied by expert guides and taking the whole host along with him, he proceeded on his journey with his thought directed toward Chitrakuta. Holding Sri Rama's friend Guha by the hand, he walked along like the very incarnation of love. He had no shoes and no umbrella over his head, and his love, self-discipline, austerity, and piety were unfazed. Unfazed means what do you mean by the unfazed? Unfazed. Unfazed. Unfazed means genuine and sincere. Unfazed. Genuine and sincere.
Unfeigned, unfeigned,
Unfazed.
unfeigned,
Genuine and sincere. He asked him, he asked his friend Guha to give an account of the wandering of the Lakshmana, Sri Rama, and Sita, while Guha narrated the same in soft accent. Then he saw the spots where Sri Rama had rested and the tree under which he had halted. The emotion within his breast could not be repressed. The gods who beheld his conditions rained down flowers, the earth grew soft, and the road became pleasant. The clouds afforded him shade all along, and the delightful and the excellent breeze kept blowing. The journey was not so agreeable to Sri Rama as it proved to be for Bharata. The numberless being both animated and inanimate that saw the Lord or were seen by the Lord in their turn had been rendered fit for the highest estate. Rendered means what do you mean by the rendered? Rendered means melted in order to separate out the impurities. Melted in order to rendered means melted in order to separate out impurities. Rendered means melted in order to separate out impurities. Rendered means melted in order to separate out the impurities. Rendered means rendered means melted in order to separate out impurities. Rendered means melted in order to separate out impurities. Rendered means melted in order to separate out impurities. Rendered means melted in order to separate out impurities. Rendered means melted in order to separate out impurities. Rendered means uh, Lord in their turn had been rendered fit for Bharta, not now finally the numberless being both animate and inanimate, seen by the both animate and inanimate, seen by the Lord in their turn, seen by the Lord in their turn, had been rendered fit for the Bharta, now finally rid them of the disease of the rendered fit for the Bharta, now finally rid them of the disease of the transmigrations. Disease of the transmigration. Disease means what do we disease? Disorder in function in human animal. This transmigration. Transmigration means transmigration. Press into a different body after death. Passes into different body after death is called a transmigration. Pass into a different body after death is called the transmigrations. Pass into different body after death is called a transmigration. This was no great thing for Bharata, whom Sri Rama ever cherished in his heart. Even they who utter the name of the Rama only once in this world, not only reach the other shore themselves, but are also able to take other across. As for Bharata, he is dearly loved by Sri Rama and is his younger brother too. No wonder then that the journey should be delightful to him. Delightful to him. Delightful means causing delight or charming. Causing delightful should be. No wonder the journey should be delightful to him. Siddhartha, the class of celestial beings, saints and great sages, observed thus, and rejoiced at heart to behold Bharata. Indra, the chief of the god, was filled with anxiety when he saw Bharata's power. The world is good for the good and vile for a while. The world is good for a good and vile for a while. Vile means extremely unpleasant is called vile. Extremely morally wicked. Extremely unpleasant is called vile. Extremely unpleasant is called vile for the while. Extremely unpleasant is called vile. Extremely unpleasant is called vile. He said to his preceptor, the Sikh Brahaspati, something, something must be done, my lord, to prevent the meeting between Rama and Bharata. Sri Rama is scrupulous by nature and is won by love, while Bharata is an ocean of affection. What has already been accomplished does threaten to be undone. Therefore, finding out some stratagem, let us use it as a remedial measure. Hearing his words, the preceptor of the god smiled and realized that, though endowed with 1,000 eyes, Indra was really blind, lacked discriminate. He said, if anyone practices deception on a devotee of the Sri Rama, the Lord of Maya, it requires on the artificer himself. The king of the god, last time we did something knowing that it had Sri Rama's tacit approval. Tacit means what do you mean? Tacit means understood,
Tacit. Tacit.
understood, implied without being stated, understood without being stated, understood without being stated, understood or implied without being stated, understood or implied and without being stated, understood or implied 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 without being stated is called tacit. Tacit means tacit approval, but tacit understood or implied without being stated, understood or implied without being stated. Tacit approval, but by resorting to some underhand means, this time we are sure to meet with disaster. Listen, O Lord of the God, it is Sri Rama's nature not to be angry at any offense against himself, that he who sins against his devotee is surely consumed in the fire of his wrath. The story is well known both in this world as well as Vedas. The sixth Dhruva knows this glorious trait of the Sri Rama's character. Who is there who loves Rama as Bharata loves? One repeats Rama's name when Rama repeats name of Bharata. Never harbor in your mind, O Lord of the Immortals, even the thought of frustrating the purpose of devotee of the Sri Rama, the chief of Raghurai. For the same will bring you infamy in this world, sorrow in the next, and the series of woe in your day-to-day life. Hear our advice, O King of the gods, his devotee is supremely dear to Sri Rama. He is gratified through service rendered to his devotee, and bears great enmity to those who are hostile to them. Even though Lord is alike to all, without either love or anger, and receives neither sin nor virtue, neither merit nor demerit, and even though he has made fate the ruling factor in this world, so that one reaps what one sows, yet according as one possesses the heart of the devotee of or an unbeliever, he appears to be impartial or hostile in his dealing. Though devoid of attributes, unattached, free from pride, and even unchanged, Sri Rama has assumed the form which attributes yielding to the love of his devotee. Sri Rama has ever respected the wishes of his devotee. The Vedas and Puranas, as well as saints and gods, can bear testimony to this. Bearing this in mind, give up perversity and cherish idle love for Bharta's feet. Cherish perversity. What do you mean by perversity? Means perversity. Perversity means the deliberate desire to behave in an unreasonable or unacceptable way. Perversity, the quality of being sexually perverted. It is perversity, the quality of being contrary or accepted standard or practices. Unreasonableness, the quality of being contrary to accepted standards, the quality of being sexually perverted means perverted, perverted means characterized by abnormal and unacceptable practice, characterized sexually abnormal or unacceptable practice, perverted, having been corrupted or distorted from its original course, meaning, or state is called the perverted. Perversity and cherish ideal love for Bharta's sweet. Sri Rama's devotees are actually actively engaged, doing good to others, share the sorrow of others, and are compassionate by nature. And Bharta is a very creased jewel of devotee. Therefore, be not afraid of him, O ruler of gods. The Lord is true to his words and friend of the gods, while Bhartas obeys Sri Rama's order. You are feeling uneasy only because you are dominated by the self-interest. Bharta is not blame at all. It is your ignorance which is responsible for your uneasiness. The chief of the god Indra was overjoyed at heart to hear these valuable words of the heavenly preceptor, and his depression of spirit was gone. The Lord of Celestial therefore rained down flowers and gladly began to extol Bharta's noble disposition. In this way, Bharta went on his way, while Saigs and Siddhas were filled with envy at the sight of his conditions. Whenever he heaved a long sigh with the word Rama on his lips, it seemed as if love overflowed on all sides. Even adamant and the stone melted at his words. The love of the citizens was beyond descriptions. Halting at one place on this side, the party arrived on the bank of the Yamuna, and Bharta's eyes were filled with tears as he gazed on his dark water, which reminded him the Sri Rama's swarthy form. At the sight of the lovely stream that possessed the same hue as the person of the Sri Rama, the chief of Raghurai, Bharta and his party were plugged into the ocean of grief on account of separation from Sri Rama and were saved from drowning only by boarding the bark of discretion. That day they halted on the bank of the Yamuna. Everyone was provided with comforts according to the occasions. In course of the night, innumerable boats of the untold varieties came from all the ghats. At daybreak, the whole party crossed the river in the single trip. Everyone was pleased with the service rendered by the Nishada chief in this behalf. After performing their ablutions and bowing their head to the river Yamuna, and the two brothers Bharta and Shatrugna resumed their journey with the lord of the Nishada. At the head of the line is chosen vehicles travels the principal Sikhs, Vamadeva, Vashishta, and so on, followed by the royal host. Next followed the two royal brothers, both on foot. Their ornaments, costumes, and style of dress were all of the very simplest. They were accompanied by their servants, friends, and the minister's son, and went with their thought fixed on Lakshmana, Sita, and Lord of Raghu. They lovingly saluted each and every place where Sri Rama had either encamped or rested awhile. Hearing the news of men and women who lived by the roadside, left their household work, and ran after the royal travellers, and having seen their comely form and affection, they all rejoiced on attaining the reward of their life. One woman lovingly said to another, "Friends, can they be Rama and Lakshmana or not? Their age, constitutions, complexion, and comeliness of form are the same, dear companion. Their amiability and affection are also similar, and their gait too resembles that of Rama and Lakshmana. Only their dress is not the same, and they are not accompanied by Sita, my friend. And an army complete in its four limbs, that is, horses and on foot, elephants and carrots, is marching before them. Moreover, they do not wear a cheerful countenance, and their heart is heavy with sorrow. This difference makes me doubt their identity with Rama and Lakshmana, O friend." Her argument appealed to the rest of the women. They said, "There is none so clever as she," applauding the latter and admiring the truth of her remarks. Another woman spoke in sweet accents. She lovingly narrated the whole episode as to how the festivities in connection with Sri Rama installation had been obtuse. She then began to praise Bharta's amiability, affection, genuine disposition, and good luck. Journeying on foot, living on fruits, and relinquishing the sovereignty bestowed by his fathers, Bharta is proceeding to pursue the chief of Raghuline to returns. Who can equal Bharta's today? Bharta's brotherly affection, devotion, and the conduct dispels the woes and the evil of those who talk or hear of them. Whatever may be said, with Bharta's brotherly affection, devotion, and conduct dispels the woes and evil of those who talks or hear of them. Talks or hear of them. Woes. Woes means woes. Woes means shock. It's a woes. Woes. And evil of evil. Evil means evil. Evil. Evil means what do you mean by evil? Evil. Evil means wicked, bad, wrong. Evil, wicked, bad, wrong. Immoral, sinful, ungoody, unholy, foul. That is called the evil. Evil means profoundly immoral or wicked. Profoundly immoral or wicked. Profoundly immoral or wicked. Profoundly immoral or wicked. Evil means burai. Evil means burai. Burai. It is called the evil burai, evil of those who talk or hear of them. Whatever may be said with regard to them, dear friend, will be quite inadequate. It is no wonder inadequate. It is no wonder that the brother of the Rama should be like that. All of us who have seen Bharata and his younger brother have become praiseworthy among women. All of us who have seen Bharata and his younger woman have become praiseworthy among women. Hearing of his Sri Ramayana, hearing of his virtues and seeing his forlorn state, they lamented. Surely he is not fit son for such a vile mother as Kaikeyi. Virtue and in the forlorn state, seeing his forlorn state. Forlorn means pitiful and abundant and lonely. Pitiful, abundant and lonely. Pitiful, abundant and lonely. Pitiful, abundant and lonely. Pitiful, sad and abundant and lonely. And lamented. Surely he is not fit son for such a vile mother as Kaikeyi. Someone said, the queen mother is not to blame at all. All this has been accomplished by God who is so favorably disposed to us. Who is so favorably disposed to us. Favorably disposed. Disposed means inclined. Disposed means inclined. Inclined to us. Of what account we are while women excluded both from secular and the Vedic rites and exclude from both from the secular and the Vedic rites. Secular and Vedic rites. Secular means not connected with religious spiritual, not connected secular, and not connected by not connected not connected with religious or spiritual matter. Religious not subject or bound by the religious and spiritual, secular and Vedic rites, and impure by birth as well as by doing, who dwell in a aqueous regions woodland and is a wretched village and are the worst of our class, that we should have such a sight, which is a reward of great religious merit. There was a similar rejoicing and wonder in every village. It seemed as if a celestial tree had sprung up in a desert. At the sight of Bharata, the good fortune of the people by the roadside manifested itself, as though by the will of the Providence Prayaga has been brought within easy reach of the people of the Shimla. Hearing his own praises as well as of the Sri Rama's virtue, Bharata went on his way, thinking of Sri Rama. Whenever he happened to see holy water, he bathed in them, and whenever he caught sight of hermitage or a temple, he made obeisance to it, asking in his heart only one boon, that is devotion to the lotus feet of the Sita and Rama. Whoever, whoever he met, be he a Kola or any other foresters, or even if he were a anchorite, a religious student, a recluse or a hermit, he would salute him and inquire in which part of the forest were Lakshmana Rama and Vehadeya's daughters. They told him all the news of the Lord, and at the sight of Bhartas obtained the reward of their life. Those persons who said that they had seen the Lord doing well were counted as dear as Sri Rama and Lakshmana themselves. Thus in polite phrase, thus in polite phrase, he would make inquiries from all and hear the story of Sri Rama's forest life. Halting that day in the halting Sri Rama's, thus the polite phrase, hear the forest life, Sri Rama, stories, all the stories, the polite phrase, he would make inquiries and inquiries from all and hear the story of Sri Rama's forest life. Hear the stories of Sri Rama's. There is stories of the Sri Ramas in the forest life. Haunting stories in the Sri Rama in the forest life. Holy story of the Sri Rama in the forest life. Story of Sri Rama here of forest life. So Sri Rama in the forest life. Halting that day in the suitable place, he resumed his journey early next morning, invoking the Lord of Raghu. Just like Bharata, everyone who accompanied him longed for the sight of Sri Rama. Auspicious omens occurs to everyone. They had happy trembling in their eyes and arms. Bharata and his whole host rejoiced at the thought that they would be able to see Sri Rama, and the sting of their sorrow would come to an end. Each indulged in his own fancy, and all went intoxicated when the wine of love. Their limbs were getting out of the control, their legs tottered, and their spokes were in a coherent way due to the emotions. Sri Rama's friend Guha presently pointed to Bharata, the tree jewel of the mountain Kamadgiri, which was naturally charming and in the vicinity. Vicinity means what do you mean by the vicinity? The area near or surrounding a particular place. The area near or surrounding a particular place is called the vicinity. Auspicious. Auspicious means conductive to success, favorable. Conductive to success.
Auspicious.
Auspicious means conductive to success, favorable. Conductive to success, favorable is called the auspicious.
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 Conductive to success, favorable is called auspicious omens. Favorable omens occurred for to everyone. Auspicious omens occurs to everyone. Favorable events occur to everyone. Everyone. They had happy, trembling, favorable omens occur to everyone. Yeah, favorable omens. Favorable omens. Omens. Favorable omens occur to everyone. 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 Favorable omens. Auspicious means favorable. Favorable omens. Favorable omens occur to everyone. Favorable omens occur to everyone. Auspicious means favorable. So favorable omens occur to everyone. Favorable omens occur to everyone. They have happy trembling in their eyes and arms. They are happy trembling. Trembling means trembling in their eyes and arm. Happy trembling. Trembling means what do you mean by that trembling? Happy trembling. Trembling means beating with a strong regular rhythm. Beating with a strong regular rhythm is called the trembling.
Throbbing. Throbbing.
Throbbing.
Throbbing. Throbbing.
Beating with a strong regular rhythm is called the throbbing. They're throbbing in their eyes and arms. Bharata and his whole host rejoiced at the thought that they would be able to see Sri Rama and sting of their sorrow would come to an end. Each indulged in his own fancy, and all went intoxicated with the wine of the love. Their limbs were getting out of control, and their legs tottered, and they spoke words in incoherent way due to emotion. They spoke words in incoherent way. Incoherent means expressed uh, in confusing way, unclear. Incoherent means unclear. Incoherent way. Incoherent means unclear. Incoherent way. So they spoke words in an incoherent way. They spoke word in a incoherent way. Incoherent way. So they unclear or incoherent way. They spoke word in a incoherent way. Incoherent way. They spoke word in an incoherent way. Expression in an incomprehensible or confusing, unclear. Incomprehensible, confusing or unclear. Incomprehensible, confusing and unclear. Incomprehensible and unclear. Incomprehensible, confusing and unclear. Incomprehensible expression and unclear. Expressed in an incoherent and confusing way. Unclear. That is the coherent way. Indulgence. Throbbing. Each indulges in his own fancy. They able to see Sri Rama's sting sorrow would come to her. Each indulged in own fancy, and all indulged in own fancy. Indulged in own fancy. Fancy. Fancy means, what do you mean by the fancy? Fancy means fancy. Fancy means elaborate or structure or decoration. Fancy. A drawing or painting created for the imagination rather than the real form. A drawing or painting created imagination rather than the real form. Drawing or painting created imagination, not in the real form. Drawing and painting, it is called the a drawing or painting that is imaginary, real form, not in real form. Drawing or painting not in real form. So drawing or painting that is imaginary, not in real form. So that is called the fancy, not in real form. Imaginary, not in real form. Fancy, indulged in fancy, and went intoxicated with a wine of intoxicated. Intoxicated means drunk or under influence of drugs. Drunk or influence of drugs. Intoxicated, drunk in influence of drugs with a wine of the love. Their limbs were getting out of control, and their legs tottered, and they spoke words in the incoherent way due to the emotions. Sri Ramachandra Guha presently pointed to Bharata, the crease jewel of the mountain Kamatgiri, which was naturally charming, and in the vicinity of which one the bank of the river Payasni dwelt. Vicinity means vicinity. Vicinity means vicinity. In the vicinity means the area near a surrounding a particular place. The area near a surrounding a particular
Vicinity.
place. Area near the surrounding particular vicinity of which of the bank of river Payasni dwelt the two brothers Sri Rama and Lakshmana along with Sita. Catching sight of the mountain, all fell protest on the ground with the cries of the glory to Sri Rama, glory to Sri Rama, glory to Sri Rama, glory, glory to Sri Rama. Glory means high renown or honor won by the notable achievement. High renown and honor, magnificent and great beauty, praiseworthy and thanksgiving offered to the deity. Praiseworthy and thanksgiving offered to the deity is called the glory. Thanksgiving, that is glory to the Sri Rama, life of the Janka's daughter. The royal host was so overwhelmed with emotion as though the chief of the Raghuline had turned back towards Ayodhya. Bharata's love at that time was more than Shesha, the thousand-headed serpent, could describe. It is an unapproachable to the poet as a bliss of absorption into Brahma, to those who are tainted by egotism and mindness, tainted by Bharata's love at that time was more than the Shesha thousand head could describe. Thousand-headed Shesha could describe. Shesha, Sesa, 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 Sesa could describe. Sesa could describe. Sesa, thousand-headed Sesa, the thousand-headed serpent could describe. It is the unapproachable to the poet as the bliss of absorption into the Brahma, to those who are tainted by egotism and mindness. Being all overpowered by love, the chief of the Raghu they had covered a distance of only 4 miles by the time the sun set. Perceiving a suitable sites and water close by, they halted at the close of the night. The beloved of Sri Rama resumed his journey. There Sri Rama awoke while it was yet dark. Sita saw in a dream that very night as if Bharata had come with his retinue, and that the body was tormented by the agony of separation from his Lord. All who had accompanied him were sad at heart, miserable and afflicted. While her mother-in-law she found changed in appearance. On hearing of Sita's doom, Sri Rama's eyes filled with tears, and he who rids others of their sorrow becomes sorrowful. The dream Lakshmana boards this dream Lakshmana bodes no good. Somebody will break terribly bad news. Saying so, he took his path with his brother and worshipped the enemy of Tripura. Lord Shiva paid his respects to holy men. After adoring the gods and reverencing the hermit, he sat down gazing the north. There was dust in the air, and the host of the birds and beasts had taken a flight in panic and were making their way to the Lord's hermitage. Says Tulsidas, he stood up when he saw this and wondered in his heart that what could be the reason. Presently, the Koras and Kirtas came and told him all the news. News. What do you mean by the news? News. News means. News means noteworthy information. Noteworthy information. Newly received noteworthy information is called news. Newly received noteworthy information, especially about recent event, is called news. Newly received noteworthy information, especially about the recent event, is called the news. Newly received noteworthy information, newly received noteworthy information is called the news. When he heard the delightful words, he felt overjoyed at heart. A thrill ran through his body and his eyes, and resembles the eternal lotus face to stars filled with tears of affection. Sita's lord became anxious the very next moment. What can be the reason of the Bharta's arrival? Then someone, then somebody came and spoke to him thus. He has with him no small army, complete of its 4 limbs, and his 4 horse, elephants, and the chariot. Hearing this, the Sri Ramas felt much disturbed. On the one hand, there was his father's commands. On his other, his regards of his younger brother Bharata. Realizing Bharata's disposition in his heart, the Lord found no propositions to fix his mind upon. No proposition to fix his mind upon. Proposition. What do you mean by the proposition? Proposition means the statement of or assertion that expresses the judgment or opinion is called the proposition. The statement or assertion that expresses a judgment or opinion is called the synopsis. The hypothesis is called the opinion. Hypothesis, judgment, a statement or assertion that express a judgment or opinion. That express a judgment or opinion. Proposition, a statement or assertion that express a judgment or opinion is called the proposition. Judgment or opinion is called the proposition. The proposition, taxation is the proposition that high taxation is undesirable. Proposition to fix his mind upon. Then he consoled himself with the thought that the Bharata was submissive, good and reasonable. Lakshmana saw that the Lord was troubled at heart, and spoke what prudence demands on the occasion. I make bold, my Lord, to say something unasked, but a servant ceased to be impertinent. If the impertinent is not importunate. You, my master, are the key jewel of the all-wise, that I, your servant, tell you my own mind. You, my master, are loving by nature and clueless of heart, and the storehouse of the amiability and affection. You love and trust everyone, and know all to be just like yourself. Fools give to the pleasure of sense are seized with infatuation or attaining power and reveal their true nature. Mata was righteous, good and wise, and his devotion to the Lord's feet is known to the whole world. that now that he has attained Sri Rama's your position, the ruler of Ayodhya, even he has transgressed the bounds of the rightness, finding an adverse situation and knowing that you are alone in this forest. This Willie and the Wick brother has plotted an evil design, and after making due preparations, has come to make his sovereignty secure. Planning all sorts of the wicked schemes, the two brothers have collected an army and marched here. If they had no willy intentions and roguery at heart, who should like to bring carrots, horses, and elephants? But why should one blame Bharta for nothing when we know that anyone in this world would be driven mad on attaining sovereignty? The moon god committed adultery with the wife of his guru, the sage Brahaspati, while Nosha mounted a palki borne by the Brahmins, and there was none so vile as King Vena, an enemy of the established usages as well as the Vedic injections. King Shasvahu, Indra, the lord of Kalesha, and King Shanku, father of the Harishchandra, which of these was not brought into the disrepute by the intoxication of the kingly power? Bharata has resorted to the right expedients, for one should leave no trace of one's an enemy or debt in any case. That he has made one mistake in that he has despised Sri Rama's Yosef as forlorn, and he will realize his mistake with Vinigencies. Today, when he beholds Sri Rama's indigent face on the battlefield, even as he said so, he forgot his love of property, and the tree of his bellicose spirit burst into the flowers in the shape of hoary creations. Adoring the Lord's feet and placing their dust on his head, he spoke, revealing his own real and the natural might. Pray do not take offense, my lord, if I tell you that Bharata has provoked me not a little. After all, how long shall I endure this and rest in my patience when my lord yourself is with me and the bow in my hand? A Kshatriya warrior by caste and born in the race of the Ragu, I am known throughout the world as servant of Sri Rama yourself. How then can I put up with such insult when the water is so low as the dust on a road? But if you were kick it up, it would be rise your head. As he rose and with the joint palm asked leave to meet Bharata in an encounter, it seemed as if a erotic sentiment itself had awoke from sleep. Binding up the matted lock on the head and fastening the quiver to his waist, he strung his bows and took an arrow in his hand. Let me distinguish myself as servant of Sri Rama today and teach Bharata a lesson in a battle. Reaping the fruit of their contempt for Sri Rama, let the two brothers sleep on the couch of the battlefield. It is well that the whole host has collected at one place. I shall therefore give vent to my past anger. Even as a lion, the king of the beast, tears to pieces a herd of elephant or just a hawk clutches and carries off a lark, so shall I lightly overthrow on the field Bharata as well as his younger brother Shatrughna and all their hosts. Even if the Lord Shankara comes to his aid, I swear by Sri Rama that I will kill him in battle. Seeing Lakshmana speak with such a vehemency and fury, and hearing his solemn oath, all the Suyas trembled with fear, while the rulers were anxious to flee away in panic. The word was seized with terror, and the voice was heard in the air, extolling the enormous strength of Lakshmana's arm. Who can tell, dear child, nay, who even knows your might and glory? But before doing anything, one must judge whether it is right or wrong. Then everyone would approve of it. They who act impulsively and repent afterwards are anything but wise. So declare the Vedas and the sect. On hearing this voice from the heaven, Lakshmana felt abashed that both Sri Rama and Sita greeted his and said, what you have said, dear Lakshmana, is sound wisdom. The intoxication of the kingly power is the worst of all, but of those rulers who have trusted it, they alone lost their head, who have never waited on the assembly of saints. As for Bharata, I tell you, Lakshmana, in the whole of the God creation, I have never seen or heard of anyone so good as he. Bharata would never be intoxicated with sovereign power, even if he attained to the position of Brahma, Vishnu, or Shiva. What can a few drops of the Kaji ever split the ocean of milk? Darkness may swallow the midday sun, and the sooner maybe heaven may absorb into the cloud, or the jar-born sage Agastya, who is stated to have drunk of the ocean of the single draught, withdrawn in the water collected in the cow's footprint, means the earth may abandon its natural forbearance, and the Mount Meru be blown away by the puff of the wind discharged on the mouth of mosquito, but Bharata will never be intoxicated by kingly power. Oh, brother Lakshmana, I swear by you as well as by your father that there is no brother so good as innocent as Bharata. God, dear brother, creates the world by mixing the milk of goodness with the water of evil. While Bharata is a swan born in the lake of the solar rays that has sifted goodness from the evil. Choosing the milk of goodness and discarding the water of evil, he has illuminated the world by his glory. Even as the Lord of Raghu extolled Bharata's virtue, amiability, and the noble disposition, he was drowned in the ocean of love. On hearing the speech of Sri Rama, chief of Raghuline, and seeing his affection for Bharata, all the gods were full of applause and said, "Who else is such a gracious Lord as Sri Rama? Had Bharata not been born into the world, who on this earth would have championed the cause of virtue in its entirety? Who else than you, O Lord of the Raghu, can know Bharata's good qualities, which are unapproachable even to the race of the bards?" On hearing the words of the gods, Lakshmana, Sri Rama, and Sita were more delighted than word can tell. Where Bharata, with all his more delighted than word can tell, Sri Rama, Lakshmana, God delighted than word can tell. Words can delighted than words can tell. Words can more delighted than words. Lakshmana, words can more delighted than words can tell. More delighted than words can tell. There Bharata with all his host bathed in the sacred Mandakini, then leaving all the people on the riverside and taking permission of his mother's preceptor, the Sikh Vashishta, and his minister Sumantra, he proceeded to the spots where Sita and Sri Rama were, taking the Nishada chief and his younger brother Shatrugna with him as he thought of what his mother had done. He felt diffident and formed ill conjecture of every kind in his mind. God forbid that Sri Rama, Lakshmana and Sita leave the place on hearing my name and shift to some other place, taking me to be the accomplice of my mother. Nothing that he might do would be too much, but looking to his own self, I am sure he will forgive my faults and receive me kindly. Whether he shown me as one possessing a black heart, or welcome me as his own servant, my only refuge as Sri Rama shows is really a noble master, while the whole blame lies with the servant myself. The only beings deserving of fame in the world are the chatka birds and the fish, who are clever in keeping ever fresh their vows of fidelity and love. Revolving these thoughts in his mind, he went on his journey, his whole body rendered powerless by diffidence and affection. The sinful act of his mother dragged him back as it were, while the strength of his devotion pressed forward, foremost among the resolute as he was. Whenever he thought the Sri Rama's good nature, his sweet moved quickly along the way. Bharata's gait at the time resembles the movement of the water fly carried along a stream. Seeing Bharata's anxiety and affection at the moment, Nishada chief forget all about himself. The auspicious omens occurs and the Nishada chief, after hearing of and reflecting on them, anxiety will pass away, giving place to delight, but in the end there will be sorrow. Bhatta knew every word of his servant Guha to be true, and proceeding further, he drew near to the hermitage. When he saw the forest and the mountain range, he was as glad as a hungry man on getting excellent food. Just as people tormented by fear of calamities and afflicted by threefold trouble, as well as by the influence of evil stars and by pestilence, feel happy on migrating to a well-governed and prosperous country. Bharata too had similar feeling. The natural wealth of the forest grew prosperous country, well governed and the prosperous country, well governed and the prosperous country, well governed and the prosperous country. Bharata, Bharata too had similar feeling. The natural wealth of the forest grew while Sri Rama lived there. Even the people rejoiced on securing a good king. The charming forest was the sacred limbs, referring to here. Discretion was the king who rules over it, while dispassion was his counselor. Likewise, the five yamas and the five niyamas constitute the champion of the realms. Mount Chitrakuta stood for its capital, while peace and the good understanding represent the virtuous and the lovely queen. In this way, the good king was complete in all the limbs of the good state, and depending as he did on Sri Rama's feet, his heart was full of zeal. Having conquered King Delusion with all his force, King Discretion had undisputed sway in his capital, and joy, prosperity, and plenty regained everywhere. Sri Ramayana. The numerous hermitage habitation in the forest regions were like so many towns, cities, villages, and the hamlet comprising the king dominion. The many birds of the various colors and the beasts of the different variety constitute his countless objects. The horse, elephants, lions, tigers, boars, buffaloes, and bulls presented a sight which attracted admiration. Shedding their natural animosity, they roamed about together like an army complete in its four limbs. Rills of water flowed, and the made elephants trampled. Their noise resembles of beating of cattle of the various kinds. Kakarwas, chakoras, chatkas, parrots, and cuckoos, and so on made delightful and the merry concert. Swarm of bees hummed and peacock danced while which showed as it were that there was a universal rejoicing in that prosperous kingdom. Creepers, trees, and the blade of grass alike were blossoming and bore fruit. The entire community thus wore a festival and delightful appearance. Beholding the beauty of Sri Rama's hills, Chitrakuta, Bharta, heart overflowed with love, even as ascetic who had reaped the fruit of their penance rejoiced on the completion of his work. Verse 20 for the 30 days recitation, verse 5 for the 9 days recitation. Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana. So some meanings are very great in this. You can find this meaning, and everything is related. The glory of the Shri Rama, that is the first, is the glory of the Shri Rama. Is very good meaning at text, and so we can see here Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana. So Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana. Veena was born, we will talk about the Veena was born when the king Agasya, a descendant of the celebrated devotee Dhruva and Sunita, a daughter of the Matru, the god of the death, Mrityu, the god of the Sunita, the daughter of Mrityu, Sunita. Uh, Being thus, Vena was born of King Anga, a descendant of the celebrated devotee Dhruva. Being thus descended from Adharma, the spirit presiding over unrightness and father of Mrityu, of mother side, Vina was born with mischievous properties, propensities, and grew to be bane of society. Fed up with the uh, Atrokites and unable to correct him, this is the stories going on. Sri Ramayana. Atrocity, extremely wicked or cruel act, extremely wicked or cruel act. Extremely wicked and cruel act typically one involve physical violence or injury. Extremely wicked or cruel act typically one involved in physical violence or injury. A highly unpleasant and distasteful object. When the unpleasant or distasteful object, a highly unpleasant or distasteful object, a highly unpleasant or distasteful object, highly unpleasant or distasteful object, and highly unpleasant, extremely wicked or cruel act that is called the atrocity. Atrocity.
Atrocity.
Atrocity.
Atrocity.
Typically, when involving physical violence
Atrocity.
or a highly unpleasant or disrespectful object is called the atrocity. Atrocity. Disrespectful object is called the atrocity. That is called the atrocity. Atrocity. And unable to correct atrocity and unable to correct him. King Anga left his capital one night and retired to unknown destination. Seeing the kingdom masterless, Raghu and others had installed Veena on the thrones. Even though the ministers were opposed of his installation, power turned his head all the more and arrogantly accounting himself greater than all, he began to insult exalted souls. Exalted means what do you mean the exalted? Exalted, a person at a high rank and powerful rank. At a high or powerful labor, exalted, a high and a state of extreme happiness, exalted, exalted, a state of
exalted,
at the high and powerful level, at a high and powerful, exalted souls begin to insult exalted soul. He went the length of the banning the performance of sacrifice and even charity, and thus put a stop sacrifice and charity. They put a stop to all pious acts and the pursuit of the religions. When the Sikhs perceived that the tyranny of the monarch was outstepping all bounds, they felt sorry for having installed him on the thrones. They therefore met and decided to expostulate with the king and pursued him, if possible, to desist from his evil ways. They further resolved to dispose of him in case he did not come round. The Sheikh approached the king accordingly and admonished him, but in vain. Their arrogance the Sheikh who killed him by the very sound of that is called the that hum. The irregent means, what do you mean by the irregent means very
enraged,
angry and very
enraged.
angry. Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana. Pause 20 for 30 days recitation. Day 22.